So whereas whenever we're unhappy with something, we'll go tell our friends, and typically it's just a group. But online, if we're on Twitter or we're on Facebook, we're blasting it out to the world. So if you have 500 people or whatever following you on Facebook, you've just immediately told 500 people how unhappy you were with a service or product. So what happened is these 3 companies got blasted because people were sharing it all over the place. And all of a sudden it became a PR nightmare. So what we do when we work with clients is we tell them, we're going to partner with you, not just to help you manage your account, but to educate you. Ultimately, they are going to be the leaders of their brand. So we want them to have as much hands-on as possible. What we do on our end is we try to streamline some of the other general processes. So they identify sources of information that we can pull from to post on their Facebook or maybe mention on their Twitter. But when clients come in with very specific questions, we want them to handle that. When they're having events at their location, we want them to take the photos. We want them to take the video and then send it to us. We'll help you post them, we'll help you promote them. So that's kind of the relationship that we have set up with them. Internally here in the office, we pretty much do the same thing. We take videos, pictures, we blog a lot. We're very active on Twitter. We're also active in the community, like I said, and like next week, for example, Great Web is going to be sponsoring a pre-South by Southwest party. And so the visibility amongst the media and tech people here in San Antonio is very good. Once the team goes to South by Southwest, there's going to be visibility there. And so we have an opportunity to tell people this is who we are, this is what we do. And as Brad was saying, we don't have billboards out there, we don't have TV spots, we don't have that type of marketing. It's all word of mouth. Well, social media is probably one of the best word of mouth marketing out there because you're accessing a ton of people all at the same time. So anytime we do something good or something interesting happens or even something within any one of our service lines becomes newsworthy, we share it on Twitter. And then all of a sudden people are like, wow, I didn't know that. Thanks a lot for sharing. Whenever we launch websites, we announce them. And people were like, wow, that's a really good website. And so sometimes simply through our engagement, we have people get pulled to our website and they actually request a quote. And so we've seen the quote requests go up at points during our time of engagement. And again, that's obviously the end result. We want people to come in the door because once we have them in here and we show them what we do, I mean, Sitefinity is amazing. The way we can work with them in social media marketing is amazing. And they get really excited about the possibilities. So what we do here is we try to refrain from us depending on this entirely. With the CMS, they have control of the website. Before, it was you had a designer do it, and anytime you needed to change, you had to call them, and hopefully they weren't on vacation or weren't out of town. The client has full control. With social media marketing, while we like to help them with some of the general streamlining of it, we want them to have ultimate control. So we give them admin access to go in there and play around, and we educate them on some of the guidelines and the behavior. But ultimately, what I tell them is social media is very fluid. Traditional media models have very stringent rules and lines, and they're all boxed off. Social media doesn't have those rules. We kind of call it the Wild West of media right now, because you can pretty much do anything within general good behavior boundaries, and it'll fly. And if something doesn't work, you simply wash it away and try something else. Apologies work wonders in the social media world. Some companies have gone out and stumbled, and they're like, hey, you know what, this just didn't work, we're sorry. And people are like, hey, that's cool, and they try another campaign. When you have that level of honesty with your community, it really does make a difference. Just for example, this year alone, I don't know if any of you have ordered Domino's Pizza recently.
I was just about to say, it's funny that you mentioned that they did bad on that end, because now their website and everything else is very user friendly and very geared toward the internet. You can even watch your order.
Yes.
And who makes it.
All of that stemmed, it's really cool. All of that stemmed from their faux pas last year. In the social media world, a company has to have what we call social currency. And that level of social currency within the social media world is the level of relationships you have and the size of the relationship. If you're a company, you need to have influence. If you only have 5 people following you, you have no influence. But if you have a lot of people following you who interact with you, then you have a level of influence. When Domino's Pizza failed, they weren't on YouTube, they weren't on Twitter, they weren't on Facebook, and so when these kids went out there and messed up and started playing with pizzas and doing really foul things, they all of a sudden realized we need to go on YouTube and make an announcement. So they had their CEO read a script in front of a camera on YouTube, and that just didn't fly. I mean, a lot of the younger generation was like, dude, this is ridiculous. The guys aren't being honest. So they still got nailed pretty hard. Their profits failed, their stock failed. It was really, really bad. And so what ended up happening was in early 2010, They decided to build their brand from the ground up. I think they altered their logo a bit. They changed their product entirely. And they even admittedly said, hey, our product sucked. And we know it. Yeah, they even said on the video, our pizzas taste like cardboard and our sauce tastes like ketchup.
It was on the
Yeah, and they're like, we're sorry, guys. And so they became very honest. Yeah, and they had to. I mean, what did they have to lose? Their numbers were already down. I mean, and they were dropping. So we've seen them learn from their mistake. Walmart learned from their mistake when they started lying online with a campaign. They ended up attaching themselves to mommy bloggers. And because women have a lot of purchasing power within a household, they attached themselves to them and their campaign online became very successful. So there are companies that learn, but there are also companies that have gotten burned and just feel like we're not going back into that space. And it's really because they're not ready to have that relationship and kind of let some of that control go a little bit. Because when you put your message out there, it's pretty much fair game for anybody. People are going to see it, people are going to interact with it. Of course, the number one question is, what do they say something bad about me? What do they do? So what? What I tell people is people are going to talk about you whether you know about it or not. At the very least, if it's online and they say something bad about you, you have a chance in the fight. You might as well take that opportunity to clear the air. You know, show people, you know, that they're maybe misinformed or there's miscommunication or maybe they don't understand the full range of your product or your services. Simply by doing that, we've seen people completely turn around and become customers, fans, simply because of the interaction. We look at Comcast. Comcast is probably one of the most hated cable companies in the nation. Frank Eliason, who's on Twitter at Comcast Cares, has literally turned and flipped that company around. Now, there's a lot of people out there who still don't like Comcast, but the number of negative reports I forget the percentage, but it dropped like 30–40% in the first year that he was on there. When Comcast saw what was happening with Frank and like 2 people, they gave him an entire team, I think he's like 27 people, in social media, simply monitoring the web and handling people's questions and concerns online. And so Comcast, as an example, I think they just changed their brand out to Xfinity, and they're rebranding themselves. So they're basically taking the opportunity of the upswing in their reputation to say, you know what, guys, we're going to start fresh. And that's what we do with our clients. We try to research them to see what's being said, so we can develop a baseline, and then we start engaging them to go out. Some of them understand the tools but don't know how to effectively use them. Some of them have never seen the tools before, they've just heard about them. How can I use them? We teach them that effectiveness. And the relationship works out pretty well. We've got nonprofits, we've got hospitals, we have small businesses, we have businesses outside of San Antonio as well, so it works out really well.
When you train your clients, do you have online tutorials, or how do you go in and teach them how to use these tools?
We normally have training in-house.
Okay.
And I will work the tools with them. I also send them a training manual that's kind of like a cheat sheet.
Okay.
So we don't want to get too technical because they can be kind of burdened down with all the clicks and the hits that they have to do, but I do send them a little PDF document with a cheat sheet on their social profiles. Okay. So they can choose different profiles. Some want Facebook and Twitter, some want YouTube and Flickr, some want to do Ustream and something else. And with over 400 networks out there, we try to find something that fits them because they may not want a general network, they may want something that's very niche specific. So there's for example, a website out there called Ning.com that allows you to set up very specific networks. So I have worked with people who want to have a closed community that has a very specific conversation that's like invite only.
Right.
So, I mean, we try to find what best fits them and it's going to fit their brand and their message because companies have this fear that we have to be everywhere. And if it's not a good fit, it's going to be a failure. And then they have that mindset that, well, it just didn't work. I'm giving up. Yeah. Well, it didn't work because there was no strategy behind it. So that's effectively what we do with our clients.
I see.